Thank you for joining us. We're here, the Patriot Way. Head basketball coach Sherman Rivers. How you doing?
Good. Doing well. Doing well.
Well, it's the first episode. Gym looks good. Nice and quiet in here.
Yep. Nice and quiet right now, but hopefully we have it a lot more noisy during the season.
There you go. Coming up, last year we talked a little bit before the show. We talked a little bit about Madison and all that kind of stuff. From last year going to the start of this year, obviously you were losing a lot from last year's team.
Right.
What did you want to try to refocus your team on to get ready for this year?
Well, obviously last year we had a lot of offensive firepower with Ike, Drake, and Jay Villani. Those are three guys that were our three leading scorers that were losing from last year's team. But also we lost Miles Middleton, who was our starting center. So one thing that I wanted to make sure that we did is that we understood that last year's accomplishments didn't carry over to this year. It's always good that we were able to have some success, and some of the stuff we did for the first time as a program is really good, but we had to get back to work and understand that we had unfinished business. Losing in the first round of region was not the goal, even though that was something that we were able to achieve by getting a 1 seed. We fell short of our ultimate goal, which was winning the whole thing. So,
you talked about what you lost last year. One, Ike, incredible player, incredible athlete. Terrible choice of football teams that he likes, that he roots for. Terrible. We'll just say that now.
I won't hold that against him though, because he did some good work for us last season.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
You can say that.
Yeah.
Well, talk to me about this year's team as far as what you've got and what you're looking forward to seeing.
A lot of people probably think I'm crazy when I say this, but we have a chance to be better than last season. This being my third season, a lot of these guys have been with me the whole time, and they understand exactly what's being asked of them from myself and the rest of the coaching staff. We have a guy that will be a 3-year starter this year in Devin Parrish, who's going to, I think, have a really big year. He's kind of been in the background with those other guys because they were really good, but he has a chance to step to the forefront. You don't replace people like Ike and Drake and Jay, but at the same time, the players that are coming up in those positions, they have a lot to offer, and they're very good players. Hagen Van Diver is going to be one of the best point guards, I think, in the county.
Okay.
And then we have other wing players. Yusuf Salih was a 6-man for us last year. He had some injury issues towards the end of the year, so he kind of didn't get to play a whole lot, but he's somebody that's going to have a good year. Our JV team was very successful last season, so those guys will be stepping into roles that will be helping us, and I think the depth that we have this year compared to last year is a lot better. Our first 5 to 7 last year was really good. I think now we have 9 to 11 guys that could get minutes at certain times of the season and produce for us.
You say that a lot of guys have been with you all 3 years? What's it like for you now? Obviously from your first year as a head coach, I'm sure you learned a ton of things after that first year.
Right.
But years 2, 3, what have you learned over the last year that's made you a better coach now than that you didn't know a couple years ago?
Just a lot of times you have to remind yourself as a coach that it's a marathon and not a sprint. You get very wrapped up in the results of things in that moment, and you have to remember that you have a goal to be playing in March, and it's a long season, and now especially with the way that the rules are set up, guys are able to do a little bit more in the off season. So not getting so caught up in how it looks in November compared to if we're progressing and getting better day by day, knowing that we'll probably have to add some new things as the season goes on. We don't have to have everything in early. Just those sorts of things that you learn. Learning that the playoffs is a completely different animal than the regular season. That's one thing that definitely sticks out for me, because we did a lot of things. I could have been a better coach in that last game than I was, and some other circumstances led to the reason why we lost. But overall, I like to look at myself first, and there's some things I learned from that game. Do
you have a chance to go to like coaching clinics, things like that in the off season?
Yeah.
And does your staff do stuff like that as well?
As a staff, we go to one clinic. We actually enjoy going to University of North Carolina. We go down to that one and enjoy that time down there. I always like going down there because I like this way that Roy Williams runs his practices. It's very structured, obviously, and the things that they do, us as coaches in the coaching fraternity, we steal things from other people. Everybody likes to think that they're a genius in X and O's, but no one is really inventing new things. They're just kind of taking other things and making it their own. And so we're able to go to that and see how they run their practice and listen to some of the stuff that they do. I definitely like to attend some college practices on occasion. One thing I have to understand is that those guys recruit to that system, so it might not necessarily translate to what we're trying to do. But VCU is one that I definitely like to go to a lot with their pressure packages and the way that they run stuff. So, like I said, as a staff, we'll go to a clinic. Sometimes we'll break off and we'll go to different practices and things like that and see different things.
All right. As far as your players go, AAU always a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
How involved are you with your players in the off season as far as their AAU programs, or like how much involvement do you have with their teams or their coaches or them specifically?
Well, I like to have good relationships with their coaches and have an idea what they have going on. Obviously, I'm not going to dictate things to them because that's their time. I just try to give them the best advice I can as far as what would be best for them as an individual. At that time, I know a lot of coaches want their guys to kind of play together. It's one of those things that might not be the best situation for you. So I want them to be able to play with the AAU program that gives them the competition level that they should get, the exposure that they should get, and also some decent coaching in the process. So, I like to go out to the AAU tournaments and watch them play sometimes if I can get there. Obviously, I'm not going to go too far because I have a family of my own. But it's a good thing to be able to go to see them in that sort of environment, because a lot of times they can showcase their talents a lot more because they're not around their team. So
yeah, you said there, a lot of guys like their kids to play AAU together.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's two different things about that. I think one, I understand why a high school coach would want their players to play AAU together.
Right.
But I also think you're stunning the development of the player individually because they're only learning how to play with the guys.
It's a double-edged sword. I mean, I can see the benefits. Don't get me wrong. When I was coaching at Potomac, I coached a team with those 2014 guys on Virginia Assault at the time, and it was good for them. Randy Haynes, Tarek Felder, and a few others were playing on that team. Xavier Laws, Keon Honore. So I can see the benefits. I also did it with some of those guys on the 2016 team. So it gets you used to playing with your teammates, but at the same time, that next year, that was 16 and under for most of them. The next year, Randy Haynes and Trey Porter wouldn't play for Boo Williams. How could I tell them not to go play with Boo Williams when that is better for them as individuals? Because they deserve that. They're good enough to go play for a higher level AAU team that is a shoe-sponsored team where they don't have to pay for anything. They get to go to all these big-name tournaments in the EYBL.
Yeah.
I can't tell a kid not to do something like that when it's for the benefit of them, because that's what AAU is for. It's not for the benefit as us, as high school coaches. Now, it can help us, obviously, because it can develop their individual skills. And hopefully they're well coached so they understand some of the subtle nuances of basketball. But at the same time, to really be super hands-on and tell them that they should go play for this team because it's going to benefit you as a coach, I don't think that's right.
Right. All right. That's exactly what I was saying.
Yeah.
So, as far as you growing up, how much AAU did you play? How much involvement did your coaches have with AAU?
It's crazy. When I was younger, I didn't really know that AAU was that big a deal.
Right.
This was way back. I'm dating myself, but this was when there was only one AAU program in the entire county of Prince William County. And at the time, it was only called Prince William. I know it became Prince William Pacers. We had an A and a B team for each age group. So we ended up playing with most of the guys from this area, Woodbridge, Garfield, Potomac, and Hilton were at the time, because there was no Freedom High School, there's no Forest Park High School. So, you had to make a squad with all the best players that were in your area, and it was really good teams around. So we would play in our little local tournaments, or travel down to Virginia Beach and play at Hampton. We would play against Boo Williams. We play against like Richmond Metro and those teams from that area for like the state. But we didn't know that there were all these like national tournaments to go to. And maybe there was, but we just really didn't pay attention, or we didn't have the money to go there. So we would win the local state tournament and qualify for nationals at the time, which was still kind of a big deal. But we wouldn't go because we wanted to stay and play in like Metro South and play at the Kenner League at Georgetown, because we felt like that was more of a benefit for us. It wasn't something that was like a whole lot of stock into it. And I didn't realize that it was a big deal until I was going into my senior year. And then Boo Williams asked me to come play with them. And now all of a sudden I'm going to the Peach Jam. I'm going to the Super Showcase. And I'm seeing all these big name players, and we don't have the internet like that at the time, so I don't know who they are. I just know that they're really good. So people are talking about them like, that's great. And then I played in another thing called the Youth Development Festival, which basically is a trial for the national team. They bring all the best players in the country and they play on East, West, North, and South, and you play like a tournament.
Right.
Well, these guys, I mean, I had guys in that. Kirk Heinrich was there. Darius Miles was playing in that. Deshaun Stevenson was playing for the West squad. He's at the time, he's fast breaking, dunking the ball between his legs.
Right.
It's things that you're not really seeing at that time because it's before the Vince Carter dunk contest.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting to see that. And then these guys were all there. And then they're asking me, like, at the end of the week, well, where are you going to play in your next tournament? Or are you going to Nike camp or Adidas camp? I said, I'm going to go back and play at Metro South Summer League with my high school. Because that's what I knew. And like, those guys were really good. I always thought that they were better than some of the dudes that I would see other places.
Yeah.
So that wasn't something that Coach Hayes really got involved in, because it just wasn't a huge deal at that time. And we played so much games with each other. Yeah. We would play in 3 different summer leagues. Like, we would play in the Kenner at Georgetown. We'd play at High Point High School out there in that summer league. I had Anacostia when they had Lonnie Baxter. Right. And DeMatha was playing with Keith Bogans and Joe Forte. So we would be playing competition like that and playing so many games together in the off season that it just wasn't something that we thought was a huge deal to travel around the country playing with an AAU team. Like I said, it wasn't until I was a senior that I was like, this is a big deal. And by that time, a lot of the schools were already recruiting me, but it wasn't the bigger schools because I wasn't traveling the country playing with those teams. So,
what do you think? I mean, obviously an AAU schedule now, it's a lot of tournaments, a lot of games, not a lot of practice in there.
Right.
How do you feel about that aspect of it as a coach? I mean, obviously, I know that you value practice. So, how do you feel about that as far as player development?
Well, it's, the thing that's rough with the whole AAU in the springtime for us as high school coaches, more so in this county, because I know that in Fairfax there's only so much that they can do. I try to schedule our workouts around AAU practices. And it obviously won't work for everybody because some people's AAU practices are a little bit different. But most of them practice Tuesday, Thursday because they travel on the weekend and they want to get that practice in before they leave on Friday. And then they won't practice Monday because they just got back from something on Sunday. Right. So I usually try to have our workouts on like a Monday, Wednesday. So one thing I try to tell them is that, listen, I know that AAU is very important for you, but you can't disregard us as a program because you want to go to AAU practice. So if you're going to skip our workouts to go to AAU practice, that's not going to sit well with me because I'm doing my best to try to work with you in this process. So I'm not saying it's a us or them sort of mentality. Right. But at the same time, let me know, and if we can work something out, great. And some of you might just have to miss some stuff, but I would expect the majority of guys to be at our things because, like you said, AAU practice, and I can't speak for all of them, but a lot of them are just, going up and down and playing like 5-on-5. It's not, you're not running a whole lot of plays. Right. So, I know that Darius Wilson with Higher Level does a good job of doing skill development with guys because a lot of those guys come to his workouts and stuff like that. But it's not a lot of the team stuff that you're doing as far as learning the help defenses and the calls and how to talk on defense and that sort of stuff. So I know that some of them stress that, but overall I would say that it's not, especially somebody that coached AAU, because you might be getting a new player the next week, and how can he really be incorporated into what you're trying to do as a team? So it's a rough situation sometimes for them because they're just trying to get ready to play games in a tournament. So they might bring on a guy on their roster that's going to help them win games. Yeah. The one issue I might have with AAU is that the amount of games that they're playing in a weekend doesn't really make them hate losing. It's just they know they have another game later that day. And that's something that I try to get their mindset to change. Is like, okay, you're playing in pool play, but you don't want to lose. You want to try to win all the games. Yeah. And some of them just, have the mindsets like, oh, we get to play another game. Everybody gets to play that little consolation game on Sunday, regardless of how many games you win on Saturday. And so some of them just look at it like it's just playing, and they don't really have the hunger to win every game and compete every game because they're playing so many games in so many different aspects. So that's one thing I think that is hurting some kids. Now, it's not all of them, but some of them.
I never thought about that. It's like a glorified participation trophy in a lot of ways.
Exactly. It's crazy. I just thinking about some of the stuff that's done now. I hear that in some of the middle schools they have a fifth quarter for football for kids that don't play. And it's like, what are you really teaching them as far as like competing and getting better? So
that's awful.
Yeah.
All right. So enough about AAU.
Okay.
The high school game. I got a couple of pet peeves with the game.
Okay.
Shot clock.
Listen, you preaching to the choir. I think that a shot clock needs to be implemented in high school basketball. I definitely do.
It makes no sense to me whatsoever.
No, it doesn't.
They always talk about, you want to prepare kids for this, you want to prepare kids for that. You are stunting the kids when you take out the shot clock from high school basketball.
I agree. And it's not even something that's just like a USA thing. The younger kids in those leagues over in Europe, I played over there for 7 years, they're using a shot clock.
Really?
So they're used to situations of having a shot clock. So when they come over here, and some of them are more prepared for the pro game, this is why. And it's not so much that you need to get high school kids ready to play in the pros.
No.
But as a coach, it's maddening to watch somebody grab the ball and stand at half court and not play. Yeah. Now, some of them have no choice. Like, that's the best scheme for them. I know that a couple times we played OP last year, they wanted to try to hold it for a long, extended period of time. And it worked for them because they had to do that. And sometimes you have less talent than other teams, and you have to do things like that. But it's not real basketball.
No.
It's not something where we're just going to hold the ball for half a quarter.
No.
And this isn't something that just started. I remember when I was in middle school, the '95 state championship team at Potomac was a juggernaut. Like, they were blitzing people. And they played Garfield High School in a game. And Garfield is a very talented basketball team. And their coach decided that they were going to just hold the ball for almost like a whole quarter. Like, as a fan, you don't want to go watch that. We're trying to, and not that we're trying to make things for the fans, but it's got to be fun for them to come watch.
Yeah.
And that's not fun for anybody to watch. It's not fun for us to watch from the bench.
No.
So
you can't kneel during a football game.
Right.
In the middle of the game.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not talking about the last 30 seconds. I'm talking about in the middle of the game, you actively have basketball coaches who are kneeling on the ball in the game.
It's crazy. So it's just, there needs to be one. I know that in private school they have it, in the WCAC for sure. I hope that at some point in time that VHSL gets it together and they start to make the shot clock a thing for the rest of us.
Have you had any meetings with the referees before the season?
I did. We actually sat down. They came here actually and met with the coaches in the county, and we had some conversations with them, some clarification about some rules, some things that they said that they're going to try to do that I don't see how it's going to happen. But we definitely had a sit-down meeting and talk to them about that.
And what are their points of emphasis going into this season?
Well, if you let me tell it, and some of the rest of the coaches, I think their point of emphasis is making sure that guys aren't having as much fun as they've had in the past. They're really trying to crack down on some of the things that are happening, like after plays, as far as kids with the whole threes that they throw up and screaming out "and one," and those are the type of things that you can't take the enthusiasm away from the game. Obviously, you're not trying to show people up, but it's got to be fun. It's a game.
Yeah.
And if it's not disrespectful to anybody, I don't see why that should be a problem. It's like, how many times do you see a kid make a basket and the whole bench screams out "and one"?
Yeah.
I don't want that to be something that's a technical foul sort of offense. So that was one thing that they talked about. Block charges is always a point of conflict for all of us. Some of the rules sound very interesting. I'm glad that they told us that some of them, because there are a lot of things that we say that we thought were right that might end up being wrong this year. But the problem is that it's subjective. Yeah. So when you get certain officials and certain crews, it's going to be called one way, and then the other time it's going to be called another. So it's just one of those things that at least in my mind, I already have it there, so I can already relax before the situation occurs.
As far as the VHSL and the refs around here in general, how much conversation do you have with them during the season?
I have conversations with our referees a good amount. They're good about having communication with us, especially after games and things that we see. They watch our films and use it as teaching points. Obviously, we all have different. With Prince William County, we have Bull Run. Fairfax, they have the Cardinal officials. Richmond has their own, and the Beach has their own. So it'd be nice if we had one singular officiating body. That way, it kind of would be the same across the board, because I feel like all of them officiate the game a little bit different and have different points of emphasis. But that's not something that I'm in control of. I just have to be able to talk with the guys we have. The problem is, once you get to the playoffs, you can have completely different crew and referee the games completely different. And that's why we try to play as many games in different places, not only during the season, but in the off season, so we can get different looks at different types of officials, so I can already have our players be mentally prepared for that.
All right. Now, this season, what teams are you looking forward to seeing? What teams have kind of piqued your interest as far as teams to look out for this year?
Well, we're going to be going to Marshall, which should be a very good game. I know that they have probably one of the best, if not the best, big men in the state.
He's the
Daniel
best.
Deaver. And listen, everybody's told me I have not seen it personally.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So obviously, I'm going to have to find a way to find some film or go watch them play. But we will be going to them and playing the game, and right before Christmas, which should be fun. We're going to be going down to Western Branch and playing in their showcase against Cox High School, which was one of the teams that beat Western Branch last year. I think they ended their undefeated streak during the season, so that'll be a good game for us. Christmas tournament, we'll be playing in the Governor's Challenge, which the first game will be playing Theodore Roosevelt. So I'm pretty sure they're going to be pretty good, and then we'll play the winner of Good Counsel. I'm not sure who else they're playing, but either way, that'll be another good game. So I try to schedule us to have some tough games. Colonial Forge will be coming here, and Anthony Mills will be bringing his team up, and they always got a lot of athletes. So our out-of-district games, I try to make sure that we get tested as much as possible. We open up with South Lakes, who, they've been good, and they have good guard play. So that also will be a tough way to start the season. So I didn't do our team any favors by easing our way into things. So,
Ready to get it going?
Ready to get it going. Obviously we were able to get the whole team together with football season coming to an end. Got the big fella there in the middle, in Ja'Kai Moore, so I'm happy about that. So he'll definitely get a lot more touches this year and bruise some people up, hopefully, and soften up the inside of the defense.
Well, I saw him bruise somebody up in practice the other night. I felt bad for one of your guards. He tried to block a shot, and that guy, I've never seen somebody fly into a wall that fast in my life.
It's obviously, with him being 6'7", 300+ pounds, and one of the best offensive tackle prospects in the nation, he's going to make some high school kids think twice about coming around him. I just have to make sure I talk to the referees about not reffing him different with the size that he is, because he's a big guy and he throws his weight around very well. So I just hopefully that the foul calls go his way a little bit more than not.
I will say this, he is one of the best youth refs that there is around here, though.
He does a good job.
Yeah, I saw him ref a game over the summer. He was great.
But we have some guys that do that. They'll obviously ref some of the GBA games. Him, Devin Parrish, a couple others were talking to me about they're doing the training for it. So it's a good way for them to make some money and also have some fun and be in the community. So it's a good thing.
And second grade kids were a little bit intimidated when they saw him come on the court. They didn't really say much back to him.
No, it's not all that.
But look at that, they're turning the lights off on him. I guess that's our cue. See you next week.
Go to work.
We did it. Come on.